bold journalism,
But Drew Hernandez is a strong-minded individual.
exposing lawlessness,
Drew Hernandez, who is ideological,
finding the truth,
and use the word Antifa.
This is what they do.
battling
They're
mainstream
liars. The woke
censorship.
mob, all they can do is lie.
These are the front lines.
What's going on, Thought Criminals? Welcome to Frontlines. I am your host, Drew Hernandez. We got a very special episode for you guys tonight. We have an extremely special guest on Frontlines joining us, Dr. Robert Malone. Dr. Malone is the inventor mRNA vaccines and has been the leading voice confronting the issues with the COVID-19 vaccine. On top of this, Dr. Malone is an author, biochemist, physician, and one of America's notorious thought criminals. I mean, these people have been coming after him for obvious reasons. Okay, someone involved with the cutting edge of these new vaccines that they've rolled out on humanity. Okay, we've seen him be deplatformed, absolutely censored, demonized, and slandered for obvious reasons. So it is an honor, sir, to have you on my show today. Thank you, Dr. Robert Malone, for joining me on the front lines.
Well, thanks a lot, Drew. I'm honored. And thanks for taking the time and having the interest to talk to me.
Hey, well, sir, I'm just going to be honest with you, okay? You, in my opinion, are one of the most important figures, voices, I would say, in the 21st century right now, because this new vaccine technology that is not only being rolled out, there's information being withheld about some of the side effects, which I know you famously talked about with Joe Rogan. We all heard it, and it exposed everything. But also, an individual directly involved with the development of these things. We need this. We need this voice. The other side knows how dangerous you are to their narrative and their pockets, right? They know all of this. So, sir, break down how things have been for you the past couple years. Where do you see things going, especially with the retaliation? I mean, last summer we saw President Joe Biden come out and say, oh, the pandemic is over. But then the World Economic Forum, like a week ago, was like, we need to refrain from prematurely saying this thing is over. They want to continue with all of this stuff. Where are we at right now, Dr. Robert Malone? Break it down.
Well, where we're at right now is kind of fascinating. I think 2023 is going to be a real turbulent year. As you point out, we're in this transition phase where the narrative is cracking wide open, and all of the tools of propaganda warfare, I like to teach fifth generation warfare, are being deployed to try to obscure what has transpired, what has gone on here. I've just come back from Stockholm, where we, myself, Ryan Cole, Richard Urso, so many others, spoke to an audience of 1,300 paying people in a huge auditorium at the Radisson near the waterfront there. And I can tell you, Europe is waking up. We're in a position where their narrative is being overwhelmed. And here in the States, there is ongoing effort to try to normalize what has happened, normalize the adverse events, as you know, normalize the bypassing of all established regulatory norms, normalize our loss of freedom and liberty, normalize the vaccine mandates. This is coming at us quick now. They want to impose vaccine passports, and they're well on the way to doing it. All kinds of infrastructure has been put in place to advance this agenda. And as you, I'm sure, on this show know well, the vaccine aspect of this is just one of many layered agenda items that are all being pushed forward simultaneously and are all interlocking, having to do with things like social credit system, central bank digital currency, a digital ID, vaccine passports, the repeated use of this mRNA tech for a variety of different indications, the advancement of the RNA vaccine tech down into food animals is something that is just beginning to be covered, and we've been at the forefront alerting the public about that. And then, of course, we have the breaking story about the propaganda warfare. As I like to say, the Western world has experienced 3 years of military-grade psyops, fifth-generation warfare, designed for offshore combat, deployed against the citizens of the Western states.
Absolutely, sir. And I don't mean to cut you off, but I want the viewers to see that what you're saying is 100% accurate and spot on, because Tony Blair at the World Economic Forum was calling, this is a week ago, calling for complete vaccine tracking system out in the open. Take a look, guys.
You need to know who's been vaccinated and who hasn't been. Some of the vaccines that will come on down the line will be multiple. There'll be multiple shots. So you've got to have, for reasons to do with the healthcare more generally, but certainly for a pandemic or for vaccines, you've got to have a proper digital infrastructure. And many countries don't have that. In fact, most countries don't have that.
There it is.
Yeah, so my friend Nigel Farage that just had me on for his Pints broadcast. I just, I hit London before we went over to Stockholm. His comment about this clip is Tony Blair is absolutely mad. Tony Blair has completely lost any shred of legitimacy after his mismanagement of the Gulf War and the events around that, and they trot him out from time to time to recite whatever storyline it is that they want to promote. That being the WEF. And in this case, as you point out, he's just serving as a spokesperson for this logic. Somehow they believe at the WEF that these unelected individuals who represent the 1,000 largest corporations in the world have the right to mandate what you and I shall do. And he speaks about these things as if there is a major public health crisis and that there are effective and safe vaccine products to mitigate that. There is no public health crisis currently, and the vaccines are neither safe nor effective that are being promoted for this. And there's the underlying assumptions. Think through what he's saying, that this globalist organization, together with its partner, the World Health Organization, has the right to mandate that you should have a digital ID, you should have mandated vaccines. We've just been through that. Mm-hmm. They have the right to mandate that you take a medical product, which, by the way, their partner companies are manufacturing and making profit from. Yep. And they can mandate that you take these products without any evidence of them being safe and effective. The other part of this speech and the background that wasn't covered in that little clip is the waiving, continued waiving of the normal regulatory process to ensure that these products are safe and effective. And they're taking the position that they have the right to mandate that this be jabbed into you and your children with very little prior testing for whatever agenda and purpose and trumped up emergency they happen to imagine. Don't forget monkeypox. That was Tedros defining a global health emergency that was a total non-emergency. And yet under that pathway, he could have mandated that you all take a monkeypox vaccine, which, by the way, the current monkeypox vaccine is associated with myocarditis and many other side effects. I mean, somehow these people think they have the right to tell us what to put in our body. And basically, we got to go tell them to pound sand.
And that's why Klaus Schwab openly says China is the model, and China has the zero COVID.
This is absolutely the China model. And look at how successful China has been in containing COVID. These folks are off the rails. Mm-hmm. The hubris is profound, and they believe these bizarre ideas of Yuval Harari that the human genome can be hacked, that transhumanism is the way forward, that humankind should direct its own evolution. The statements that are made are just bizarre, and they're so naive and bizarre that, as Chris Martenson pointed out the other day, last night on a Twitter Spaces broadcast we did together for the Unity Project, they're either incredibly naive, or this is just a distraction for a hidden agenda that they're pursuing.
I think that's abundantly clear because they're all in unison. They're all saying the same thing. They want the transhumanism. They want the tyranny. It's like some people are like, oh, even last week when I covered the WEF in Davos, I covered them openly in context saying we need a new world order. And then Newsweek turned around and said, Drew Hernandez is a conspiracy theorist because Davos and the WF said they want a new world order. It's what I'm trying to say is this isn't about me.
This is their words.
It's their words. They say this stuff out in the open. Dr.
Well,
Robert.
what that reveals is how compromised corporate media is. That's why podcasts and alternative media have to prevail. That's our mission right now, frankly. It's not only resisting the WEF and their globalist agenda. And remember, Gavin Newsom is being teed up for the next president candidate for the Democratic Party, and he is full-on young leader trained WEF. He is as WEF as they come. Yep. He is our Jacinda Ardern. He is our Justin Trudeau. Yep. He is our Christine Inserlake. And better wake up, guys. Because he's not a mental giant, but he is absolutely backed by these people. And, many of us, I say it all the time, Canada and New Zealand, and to a large extent, Australia, have become client states of this unelected World Economic Forum body without them firing a shot. And we are on the threshold of that here in the United States.
Absolutely. We are in their targets. We are in their crosshairs, and we're not going to let it happen. We're going to continue to oppose these people, expose these people. Sir, I wanted to ask you a direct question. I remember listening to you on Joe Rogan, and you made yourself very clear. You said these vaccines that are being rolled out, it's premature. It's premature. Some negative stuff is going to happen. People just need to know that this could potentially ruin your health and your life because traditionally when they roll out a new vaccine, isn't it like it takes 5-10 years? It takes some time to
Precisely.
make sure, right? But they did this.
Yeah.
I mean, even
well,
the
to
CEO,
your point, there's a great clip of Bill Gates saying that it's going to take 3 years before 2 to 3 years. No, he says 2 years until we know the adverse events. And like clockwork, here we are 2 years later. And the scope of the adverse events is really becoming more and more clear. The only things that are kind of left in a gray zone right now is the cancer aspects, and those are getting stronger and stronger, those linkages.
Absolutely. And this is why you got banned. This is why they came after you. This is why they tried to discredit you.
Actually, so fascinating, because this is, God lives in the details, I think, is Mies van der Rohe, right? Yeah. Twitter and LinkedIn deplatformed me 2 days before the Joe Rogan hit was recorded. And they did so within 12 hours. It's hard for me to imagine that those were independent events. I operate under the assumption that I'm tapped at all times.
Yes.
Pegasus 2, you can't even detect. So that's just the new normal, right? Is that Biden has authorized spying on Americans, and by God, that's what they're going to do. Yep,
and we've seen through the Twitter files, FBI, actual real corporate fascism working alongside of big tech.
And so Twitter, because a colleague of mine, another physician, filed a legal case against Twitter, which got thrown out by the state of California, but not before initial discovery. The justification that Twitter gave for deplatforming me was that I reposted a video from the Canadian COVID Care Alliance that questioned the integrity and the conclusions of the Pfizer trials. So it was titled "Safe and Effective?" ? And it remains the definitive breakdown of the fraud and malfeasance that occurred with those trials. And this was why I got booted, is by just retweeting the truth from the Canadian COVID Care Alliance.
Sir, I wanted to ask you, Dr. Fauci is riding off into the sunset, still claiming we're in a pandemic, all of this. I've always made this point on the show, and I wanted your opinion on this, is I don't think he's a stupid man. I think he's very intelligent, very smart. I think he knows exactly what he's doing. I think he knows just as much as you how this is going to hurt people potentially. Am I right on that? Does he know enough to know that he should be warning the general public about some of the side effects that could potentially damage your health forever?
Well, Tony is getting on a bit, and he has been for quite a while. Most of us have been speculating for the last 2 decades about when he's going to leave. I would call him wily, would be the characterization. He is an extremely adroit bureaucrat. I can't document that he is a member of the intelligence community, but there is no question that by his position, where he heads the entire biodefense enterprise, it's not just NIAID. He sits on, or sat on top of, the DoD stack as it relates to biodefense. So everybody thinks that all this has been managed through HHS. The data are increasingly clear, the documentation, the receipts. As Satya Latipova likes to point out, the contracts and everything, that much of this has been managed by the whole national security apparatus, Homeland Security, and the Department of Defense in particular, and not really by Health and Human Services. In my experience, people in the intelligence community, of which Tony, I believe to be a member, are very adroit liars. They are taught to lie. They are taught all of the tricks and tools of the trade of information warfare. And Tony Fauci shows all of the characteristics of someone who is very well trained and adept at information warfare. And that's what he's deployed on all of us over the last 3 years. As we said in that prior segment, remember, you have directly experienced, you and your peers and all of the walking hypnotized zombies out there with their masks have experienced 3 years of full-on military-grade psyops information warfare campaigns to convince, coerce, and compel them to take these products and to accept the narrative that's been promoted by World Health Organization, the WEF, and by our own government.
Absolutely. And, people think that, Bill Gates' involvement in all of this is a conspiracy theory when we have him on record, as of recently, Bill Gates warning Australia the next pandemic is just around the corner. That's headline news out in the open. He says this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Does Bill Gates want to be God?
So this is the line where I don't cross, is I don't speculate about what's going on in Tony's head or Bill's head. I'm not a mind reader, so I can't do that. Sorry. But he is, I understand it now, the second largest donor to the World Health Organization. I suspect the first largest donor is probably the Central Communist Party of China. So Bill Gates, as I said on Candace Owens so long ago, it seems, when we were talking about Bill, my comment was, Bill Gates is a monopolist. He is one of the greatest monopolists in the history of the world. He is clearly adroit at monopolistic practices. And we got to see that with the browser, the Explorer lawsuit. And we saw him rocking during his testimony in ways that are suggest somebody who is not of good mental health, let's say. And he has managed to monopolize world health in ways which advance his own business agenda. How we got to the point where we allowed a software magnate, wealthy software manager, I wouldn't call him a software developer, to dominate world health, somebody with no background in medicine or health, it is beyond me. But that's what we've done. We worship money, we worship the wealthy, and we believe in this logic of social Darwinism that those that are rich must be superior, and that they believe, and we accept that logic, that they are suited to rule us by virtue of their wealth.
I think it's 100% clear where these people stand, and they believe, like you said, that they have the ability to rule our entire lives, the economies, the social structures. That's kind of like what the World Economic Forum talks about openly. And nobody elected these people, but they believe that they are the ones in control. Dr. Robert Malone, thank you so much for joining me on the front lines today. You got a new book. I see it there on the backdrop. Lies My Government Told Me and the Better Future Coming. What can we expect from reading that? And where can people find it? And where can people follow you and track all of your great work that you're continuing to do?
So for your viewership, they're already awake. And what's useful for them in this book is there's a whole bunch of details that they may have forgotten or not have ever been aware of concerning what's transpired over the last 3 years, and particularly the last year and a half. So that's what's useful there. Plus the last section of the book focusing on what can we do to make for a better world, to make for the world that we want to live in, as opposed to their dark, transhumanistic fourth industrial revolution world. That's helpful, I think, for people that are already awake. But the real target of the book is your mother, your aunt, your sister, who is caught up in the narrative and you can't talk to them. They can't hear you. This is designed for the persuadable middle, not for the 15% of folks that are just, crazy deep in the whole narrative and can't listen to anything, but for the ones that are kind of starting to scratch their head and say, what happened here? Mm-hmm. My government has been misleading me. I see all around me people that are fully jabbed, and yet they're getting disease, and they're getting worse disease than the unjabbed. I wonder what's happened here. I want to learn more. That's who this book is designed for, to walk them through what's happened and help them to make sense out of what we've all been scratching our heads about.
Absolutely. Make sure to go check that out. I believe it is on Amazon, correct, Dr. Robert?
Yeah, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, all the usual booksellers, and you can get it direct from Skyhorse Publishing if you don't want to do business with Jeff Bezos.
There you go. Make sure to go follow Dr. Robert on Twitter, all his socials. Sir, thank you so much for joining me today.
My pleasure. Let's do it again.
Let's do it. All right, guys, you guys heard it from him himself. It is clear the love of money is a root of all kinds of evil. It plunges humanity into piercing sorrows. You read that very clearly in the Bible, and it's clear, like, these people are monopolizing your health. They're monopolizing these jabs. They're monopolizing everything they possibly can for one purpose and one purpose only. They want to stack their pockets. They want to stack their wealth, fill their pockets, and they want control. My name is Drew Hernandez. These are the front lines. I'll see you guys on the next one.
We must play offense. Game on.
You expect the rest of the world to live in La La Land. We're not.
We've been saying these things from day one.
Our solemn vow to you: be good, be brief, be gone.
You might find yourself changing your opinion on things you've never even thought twice about. That really sets America apart.
You are not ready for season 2. This is Reloaded.
My life tale and my truth has been to fight socialism.
Are you familiar with structural racism?
Yeah, it's a myth.